And about how long does this go for?
About an hour. Okay. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this month's edition of the Audio Production Town Hall. You can find us here each and every month discussing all sorts of audio-related topics, everything from music production to game audio to audio post-production and beyond. So I'm Eric Berzins. I'm the course director of Project and Portfolio 5, and today I'm joined by recording arts graduate Tony Porter, who's a freelance game audio designer and developer, a senior sound designer. I think I messed up your title, Tony. How do you want it? Senior sound designer for games. Is that the or audio? I'll let you handle it. I messed it up. Sorry.
Senior, that implies that I get the Denny's discount, right?
Yes.
I can't wait. It's coming up soon. That's really what I'm in for, right? It's all the cool discounts, the double ARP, all that kind of thing.
Nice.
I figure if I put that in my job title now, that scoots me into it. No, senior sound designer, composer. I've done audio directing, VO acting, a little bit of everything, really. So
Jack of all trades, which sometimes you've done both in-house work and freelance, correct? Because you worked at EA Tiburon and some other places in-house, right? So
right.
So you've done a little bit of both.
Right.
You know, we've talked to other people about working in-house in game audio, so we wanted to talk to you because you're freelance at the moment, right? So we wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit about being a freelancer in game audio specifically.
Right. In-house versus out-house. Well, that's not the right word. Out-house. Out-house implies that you need to have toilet paper and a flashlight with you.
Outsourced,
but
I guess.
Sometimes it feels like that. I started contracting while I was finishing up my my education at Full Sail. Started picking up some light contract work here and there, and realized I wanted to move into game audio. And from there, I joined at the time they had a game audio internship. I don't know if they have that still now after I graduated from RA. And did that for about 6 months. And then the school hired me. The school hired me to work in the game development program, to teach game programming students basically game audio, plus work on student final projects. All the meanwhile, I was still doing freelance contracting, just smaller things, independent things, a screensaver of all things. And from there, I got employed by a studio that was in town, that's no longer in town, called N-Space. And I worked there for about 8 years, I guess. Still did some contracting work kind of on the side. And then from there, pretty much just started going into straight up full-time freelance, I guess is where, if that's the right way of putting it. Freelance is kind of a floaty word because, again, I was employed. I was full-time employed. Still did contracts on the side. I was,
moonlighting.
Absolutely, and it's always a balancing thing. It's learning to work remote. It's learning to find the projects that are going to match with you and your time schedule and your skill level and all that kind of things. And after a while, I think I got more full-time employment. Yeah, like you said, I worked at EA. I worked at EA for a bit. Worked on Madden and NBA Live. I would say that didn't quite suit what I wanted to do. Like, grateful for the job, great people there, but it wasn't something that I kind of wanted to stay with long term. So the freelance was always there. Freelance really kind of picked up, certainly in the years of COVID, where everyone was making a game and there was a lot of funding for games. Contracts kind of picked up, and then I joined a startup company a few years ago, and that was full-time employment, but it didn't really pan out. So kind of sticking with freelance for the most part through that. So freelance weaved its way through my entire career. It's where I feel kind of the most comfortable. If a in-house position pops up that makes sense, I'm open to it. And that's probably the biggest thing I could say about your contract is, I mean, your career is to stay open to it, stay open. So freelance can be a cool side thing. Freelance can be your main thing. And there's no really kind of wrong way of doing it. It's mostly about like what supports you, what supports your life, what supports your soul. What is it that I need? Am I okay just doing this on the weekend, or do I really need to just be embedded in this full time? This is my job. This is my identity. Both have kind of pros and cons about it, but freelance is always it's always kind of tickled that part of me that I get to keep working on a variety of things, a variety of project types. So like I did work for consoles, I did work for handhelds, I did work for mobile games, I've done work for theme park audio, I've done work for screensavers, I've done some small short films kind of here and there. It just kind of keeps it varied, and everything that I learn, everything that I work from one project, that I learned from one project, can translate to another project. So it keeps it really, really interesting. It's flexible in the way that makes sense to my family. I've got a family, and it's just something that even I think if all the cool employment, the AA and the AAA jobs kind of go away, that I can always find work, contracting, doing freelance kind of work. And it is tricky, and it is navigating a lot of stuff, but it's really just more about your relationships, how you network, how you treat people. I would say that the reason why I got most of the jobs was because I was cool to those first Full Sail game students, because they went on to get jobs probably faster than like an audio person with the programmers. They're going to get those jobs, and then they're going to remember, hey, who was that person who worked with us on our final project? And those are the calls that I get. Hey, who treated me right first? Who did amazing work for us, respected our work, communicated very well. I want to work with that person again. I want to work with that person again. So that's
networking outside your discipline, which can be tricky sometimes if you're siloed into your own department. Being able to find those other people who can't do what you can do, who might need your services down the road. That's definitely something you want to strive for as much as possible, even if it's like game jams or something. Try to meet somebody who is in some other department who can't do what you can do. I had a question. So, like when you were you mentioned you were moonlighting while working at different companies. Did you ever work at a studio where they were had a policy against that sort of thing, or have you found that most in-house roles are still open to you pursuing outside work on the side?
I'm going to say, first off, Full Sail kind of, I don't know what the policy is these days, but Full Sail loved that idea. They loved the fact that I was working, that I was in the industry. They didn't really mind so much at the time if I was if I had downtime at work and all the projects were caught up and I didn't have.
Oh, we lost him. So Tony, I don't know if you can hear us, but frozen on our end a little bit. Internet dropout. Well, while we're waiting for Tony to come back, we'll see if his connection stabilizes. I will read off some of the projects that he has worked on because I forgot to name check those. So Tony has worked for over 15 years on major franchises like Power Rangers. He's worked on games related to WWE, Skylanders, Dungeons and Dragons, Subnautica, and more. So he's definitely worked on a whole lot of different types of projects. Let me shoot Tony a message just so he knows his connection dropped out. I'll shoot Tony a message, see if he can get back on. In the meantime, while we're waiting, I will also try to pull up. Okay, he got. Oh, he had his power flash. He had a lightning strike. Perils of living in Florida. So he's gonna get back on in a minute. In the meantime, I will see if I can pull up his website so we can take a look at his stuff here. Let me shoot me a message. All right, let me share this screen real quick. You probably won't mind. Let me see if I can share just his website. There we go. He's trying to get on his mobile hotspot. Okay. All right. Well, let me share his website real quick. See if everybody can see that or not. Can everybody see that? Are you not seeing what I'm sharing? Okay. In that case, I will drag it over. Okay. There's Tony's website, thetonyporter.com, if you want to check out Tony's website to find out more about the stuff that he's done. He's got his audio integration and sound design work, voiceover examples, music, credits. He's worked on Star Wars, Battlefront, all sorts of stuff. Call of Duty, Skylanders, all sorts of stuff. All right, let's take a listen to Tony's demo reel while we're waiting. See if we can share that. I might need to share audio actually. Let me share. Oh, nope, he's back. I was about to show your demo reel, Tony.
You're free to. I hope that. Sorry about that.
No worries.
We're both in Florida here. If anyone's not watching from Florida, we're getting a big crazy storm that just kind of made the whole house fluctuate. Power stayed on. Wi-Fi is rebooting. I have myself on mobile moment.
Okay, no worries. Thanks. Appreciate it. So, so yeah, we were talking about working in-house and freelancing on the side, and you were talking about when you were teaching and being able to do that as well. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
I tell students some of the differences between, like, say, film sound, which would be the closest neighboring sort of field to game audio, the closest cousin. So I usually describe some of the differences of, like, okay, the film industry being mainly freelance based, and that there's more opportunity to find in-house type roles in game audio. But as you said, you enjoy that flexibility and that diversity of being able to work on different projects as a freelancer, because we've talked to people who've worked at the same studio for like 10 years and they've only worked on that same franchise for a decade, which for some people that's cool. You can really get embedded in that world, but to you as a freelancer right now, you find I guess my read of you is that you would find that to be kind of boring professionally to have to work on like the same franchise for an extended period of time. Is that correct?
You'd have to really like the franchise or the game type that you're making. Like one of my favorite types of games is a fighting game. I love Street Fighter, and I've found I worked on I work on a mobile game called Power Rangers Legacy Wars. It's basically a fighting game for mobile, and then we did a game called Battle for the Grid, big Power Rangers title, and it did really well. And I find that work. I could probably do that work kind of forever because I like the subject matter already. Now, when I was at EA, I'm not a big sports guy. I'm not opposed to them, not opposed to sports games. I used to really like sports games, but I kind of just didn't really follow them so much. My time there was like eye-opening, and I love it, and I appreciate the people, the opportunity. It was great. But I pretty much just worked on shoe sounds, like the sounds of shoes, for about 6 months.
Full-time Foley artist.
Right. Well, what we did was we listened. I listened to a lot of recordings of basketball games that the team had recorded, and we were just listening for very specific shoe types that I was going to kind of harvest and put in. And I did that for the longest of time. I did some UI stuff and some music placement stuff, but that was mostly what I did. And I don't know if I can keep doing that. I don't know if I could. Maybe I could. You got a good enough reason to do it. I got to pay bills. I got to feed my family. Those are great motivators. But I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could excel as much in that. Maybe I didn't give it enough of a chance. Maybe I was in a weird mood in my career. To say this is fine. But maybe if I had liked sports, maybe if I had followed those games well enough to say I am here and I'm doing this, and yeah, I'm doing the shoe sounds, but I'm a cog in the wheel, but every cog is needed to make this thing run, and I'm doing it for the good of the team, I'm serving others. So I'd like to think that switch would have flipped in me, but I was really kind of and you were asking actually about whether other companies had let me kind of contract, or I think that's going to be per case basis. I think some studios, I think maybe more so studios would be like, well, if you got this extra time, then maybe you're not utilizing it right or whatever. Not that you'd be using their equipment.
Right.
But I know EA had a clause that basically said hey, if you're working on something outside of here, that's basically ours.
Right.
And I don't think they ever really enforced that. And they kind of knew that I had a standing contract with Power Rangers, with Legacy Wars, the mobile title at the time, but it only used about a week or so of my time on my off time, and it didn't impact it, and it was kind of an okay thing. And had I pursued a full length career with EA, maybe they would have pushed to say, hey, we need you to drop the contract. It was kind of loose at the moment. So, but I think their policy, and most generally, is that they don't want you working with other stuff. If you got your own little game project that you kind of do on the side that's, quote, not competitive with the project that you're currently working on,
right?
I think they don't really care so much.
Okay.
So that would be that. Yeah.
So you were talking about having to do the footstep sounds when you're working in-house. So as a freelancer, how do you slot into those projects? On the things you tend to work on freelance, are you do you tend to specialize on a certain type of asset that you're creating? Are you doing everything, or are you just kind of an additional person that they're bringing on to an existing in-house team? How do you integrate into the overall picture of an audio when you're doing a freelance contract?
Right. Well, it always depends on it changes on the team. Most of the time, I'm by myself. And really the only difference is when they bring me in, when they decide, we need a sound person to come in, we need someone. If they're forward thinking, they start talking in the beginning and they start planning things out, and they should come to me for information on how to schedule, how to budget, how to scale things up, problems that they're going to run into, solutions that we can come up with now. Most of the time it's, hey, we need audio and we have this amount of money to spend on it. Who do we bring in? And if they bring me in, unfortunately, a lot of times, a lot of things are kind of already decided. Even if they haven't decided them already, simply the fact that the project is that far along can kind of paint me into a corner of how much I can really do with how much you're going to pay me. And the only way kind of around that is for myself, to have a good network of other audio engineers or other people that I know that I can, at a moment, bring onto the project and say, hey, look, you've only got this much amount of time to do this. You really want result X. I need to bring someone else in order to hit that, And if they're game with that, then that's usually the solution. But it changes. It really does change on depending on where they bring me in. I have to look at a project and kind of assess, triage, as it were, and kind of look and see what's needed, what your goal is, certainly what I'm happy with, what solution I can offer, and what it's going to take for me to get that. Do I need more time? Do I need more money? Do I need more access to developers? Do I need to be embedded in daily schedules? I mean, it changes based on the project, and I have to kind of look at it, understand the people, understand the project. If they've got documentation, awesome. Most of the time, I don't get a whole lot of documentation other than maybe like an asset list that someone generated. But really, they should be coming to me to generate that asset list. I should look at the project and I should say, okay, you need this, this, and this, and this. And those are honestly the better projects to work on, where they kind of trust you with those decisions of budget, with those decisions of time, with those decisions of like what we really want versus what we have to spend on it. But that's not always the case. I get a lot of just like, we have this amount of money and I have this amount of time. What can you do? And I can flex. I can work really, really fast, and I can turn over pretty good stuff. But it really just depends on the teams themselves. Well, a lot of like what I do is try to create awareness to teams of like, you should be talking to us sooner. Even if you don't want to hire now, a consult right now would do your project really, really well. And I think that the tide's kind of turning on that. Most of the projects that I've been getting recently have been a little bit more straightforward in terms of like what they know their needs are, what their problems are, and what they need solving. So I don't have to jump in and like figure out a whole lot of stuff. But that's certainly changed over time. There was just a lot less information than there is now about what audio does, what audio can do for them. So a lot of it's just that, just like troubleshooting and assessing triage, creating the scale, creating the schedule, and then moving on from there appropriately.
Cool. I think we had a question from a student, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So can we get the student question?
Yeah, sure thing. So we have DJ Brown, the music producer, asking, how would you advise a Full Sail student on finding freelance work or a full-time job if they live in a small town outside a major metropolitan area?
I don't know if you caught that, Tony.
I can't. I can hear someone speaking off. And
Okay. The question was basically, for a Full Sail student currently who lives in a small town, not in a major metro area, what would you advise them for how to find freelance work when they're not in a major market?
Yeah, that's true. That can be tricky because you really need to play as many angles as you can. And actually, that's one of the things that me and my wife are talking about when we're thinking about like, should we relocate somewhere a little bit quieter, maybe less hot and muggy and that kind of stuff. And what that does, although I have good network connections for my remote work, I don't have as much like local access, or I wouldn't have as much local access to things in town, things like, a lot of the tech schools that are here, the tech companies that are around, the general business that happens here in Florida. So I'm close to a hub, not the biggest hub, and that's helpful. That certainly kind of enforces things. Starting off, if you're already in a town that doesn't have a whole lot there, it restricts you from some things, but most of the work that I've gotten was not dependent on the fact that I'm in town now. I'm trying to diversify my career, and I'm looking around and doing different things locally or in Florida. But starting out, it really is all about getting the online presence, the online networking, the relationships. This whole industry is based on relationships, right? So while it's difficult to get a full read on someone without like kind of being in the same room or getting that kind of, the connection that you get by just simply being next to a person, speaking to them, looking to their face, all that kind of stuff, that doesn't stop anyone from creating an online persona, if you will, that you're going to push forward and market that says, I like this person, I want to keep talking to this person, I trust this person. And it really is just about creating trust. And you can do that online. It's a slower burn. My path started mostly just by kind of haunting forums, haunting online places, and just kind of being there, being present, always having an answer, or at least being able to know where to find the answer, and just kind of being a person that people trust, hopefully like to talk to, easygoing. I guess I'm saying is that your demeanor, how you present yourself online, is the biggest thing. they can look to your skill, and you can have a cool reel, and you should have a cool reel. You should have a place online always that you can point someone to, whether it's online or in person. Always have something online that you can point someone to. But it really is just about creating those networks, that connection. The connection is the biggest thing, and the connection doesn't matter if you're in Wichita or if you're in Orlando or if you're in New York or in LA. I mean, you have different kinds of access, but you don't have, it just changes how you kind of have to play. And it is a little bit of a slow burn in terms of finding communities, finding people that are going to support you and encourage you, taking place and taking real interest in other people's projects. You know, you're not just there to sell yourself and say, I'm this great person, even if you are. You want to show that you can invest part of that into other people's projects, that you care about it, that when someone posts about this cool game that you're gonna this cool game that they're working on, that you're not just gonna go into like sell mode. Do you need sound? Do you need music? Do you need, I'm a voice actor, right? You know, that eagerness is there, but you kind of have to put a sheen of like, I'm interested in your project. I like it a lot. I checked it out. That's a cool video, you know? Mm-hmm. Don't even say anything about like who you are. You just start being present. You start being known as, oh, you know what? That person is a sound person. They're not always pushing and selling themselves all the time. There's an evenness to it that no one teaches. There isn't really a way of doing it like the right way. No one's going to kind of pull you aside and say, hey, you come off as weird online. No one's going to really do that. It's just going to be evident in the people that return to you, that want to continue the conversation, that appreciate your input on it. That doesn't all sound like a hard sell. Mm-hmm. And that's tricky because you are kind of selling yourself in that way. You're hoping that they're buying this connection with them, and you're hoping that it's a genuine connection, because a career like this is only built off of genuine connection. Skill can only get you so far. I don't care if I have the best person working for me, if I can't get along with them, if I have to kind of shield myself from their comments all the time. You know, this is someone who I want to be and hang out with even outside of this. This is where freelance kind of lives and thrives. There is skill and there's professionalism, and we're not gonna go out fishing or something like that, but we're definitely gonna be online friends. You know, that's where I see your one way in. I mean, specifically, game jams are great places, and game jams happen everywhere. Game dev happens everywhere, and there's always someone looking to create a team to create a project, to finish something, and every single project is going to need an audio person, and that's your kind of goal, is making these connections and finding out organically, if you can, where these needs are, because like I said, game development is really everywhere at every single scale. I just posted this in the Game Audio Slack, the Game Dev Map, gamedevmap.com. It's basically a big map, and it shows a big list of developers, and you'd be surprised like how many developers are probably in your area, that if you wanted to go the local route and like go downtown and find these places, you could. But it just really opened my eyes in terms of like, game dev is really everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it really is just about getting yourself visible online and not being a jerk.
So you mentioned the Game Audio Slack. So for students who don't know, you moderate that Slack forum or channel.
Right.
So that is one networking hub, for game audio professionals. So that's certainly one place where people could go to network. I'd say, going back to something you said earlier too about trying to network with people outside your discipline, what for like a student that like just commented, what advice would you have for them of trying to network with people outside their discipline? Because like you said, the Game Audio Slack is mainly for game audio professionals, right? So everybody's kind of has the same skill set more or less. So you all have
right.
more the same interest, same skill set. So to some degree, there's also competition for the same jobs
Right.
in a sense. Trying to find those other people outside your discipline to network with can sometimes be more challenging, I think.
No, true. Though, like places for game audio people are primarily there just to one, share information, two, kind of crowdsource problem solving stuff. A little bit of marketing here and there, even kind of show that you're there, because I do that all the time where I'm constantly looking at like the Slack and stuff, and I see, oh, someone does this really well. Or I really liked what this person does, what they shared, and that kind of goes to the back of the mind. And later on, when I have a project, I'm thinking, oh, I know someone who does that really, really well, and so I go to them, and that's a bit of the key to it too. Is just working laterally within your community. But in terms of what you're saying about like interfacing with those different people, with like animators and programmers and all kind of stuff, you really just need to find places, communities that are more about game development in general. And I would say you really should be involved in those communities as well. If you're just all about making sounds and you're not really interested in how like games are made, I don't know how long of a career you're gonna have here. You really have to kind of like games, but more so game development. It's not just being a consumer, you want to be a producer. And so learning to speak the language of game development is huge. I'm super grateful for like when I was at Full Sail, I learned just as much from the game development students as they were learning from me. I learned terminology, I learned phrases, I learned a bit of their environments that they work in, the software environments that they work in. You learn about hardware and software limitations. You learn about all these things that aren't directly related to you making cool sounds for games or writing music for games or whatever it is you're doing, but it all is going to work in it. When you need to interface with an engineer or an animator and stuff, you really need to speak their language. They should learn to speak yours as well, but you can't force that on them. You should take it upon yourself to learn as much as you can about just game development in general, how it works, the software and the tools that they use, the programming languages that are involved, the engines. And that information is so much more available now than it was 20 years ago. I had to piece all this together from crazy forums and secondhand knowledge and stuff. It's kind of delivered to you now. You can download Unity, you can download Unreal, you can download Wise and Fmod and just start learning these things. But really it is just learning to speak their language and then finding the places where they go. I don't know if places like it exist anymore. There was a forum called just Game Dev, and it was mostly just people talking about making games. And there'd be like, help wanted section and, information and tips, that kind of stuff. But there was just a lot of people just sharing their work. And that was a great place for me to jump in, learn about their work, be invested in there and commenting and suggesting things and not doing the hard sell of an audio person, just being as much as possible a cool person that they would trust. Oh, that person commented again. He had said something good about my project before, It's not necessarily, you're not trying to affirm people in their thing. You're just trying to be a real person. You're trying to make this connection. So finding places where people make games and talk about making games. I mean, that could kind of be LinkedIn. That could be other social media places online.
A lot of game developers are on Discord now. It's like joining Discord.
Oh, right, yeah. People even forgot about Discord. Discord exists, and there are amazing communities on there. You probably just need to do a precursory search and find a bunch that you can jump to. I don't have any recommendations in specifically what game development communities exist now, but they're there. You just need to kind of get plugged in Don't do the hard sell. Don't be the annoying audio person that says, hey, I want to write music for your game. That opportunity will arise. It'll mostly arise when you're ready for it. When you're not ready for it, you don't want that job. If you're not ready for something, don't jump into it. I would say. I mean, learn what you can, and you can learn a lot trial by fire. But I mean, what you want to do is make sure that you are a trustworthy person, because they're trusting you with something. They're trusting you with a lot of what they have spent their time and money on. And we as audio people know how strong and important audio is, right? What it can do to the perception of a project, to the user experience, how I emotionally connect to something. We know that. So we have a very, very big responsibility to honor that, respect that, carry that forward with this project. We're trying to build these relationships to say, yes, I worked for you once, and I'm going to work for you again and again and again because I trust you. That's my theory, anyways.
That's great, Tony. I think I had another question from a student. I can read. So, can we get that whole question? So they said, I'm 6 months into my full sail journey, and I can't wait until I'm able to hold my diploma. I'd love to figure out how to start making money at this before I graduate. Any thoughts on that, Tony?
Yeah, I just kind of started. I know that sounds like blunt or glib or whatever, but I just really kind of started, I guess. I mean, at the time there were a lot more mods, game mods, modifications for games. I don't really know what the market for that is now, because everything, that sentiment and endeavor seems to mostly be going like towards games like Roblox and
right.
things with user-generated content. And you go where the projects are. And I've seen a lot of amazing like Roblox projects and stuff that have horrible sound. And you don't want to go to a developer and say, hey, I'm going to fix your sound and all this stuff. That's not really the right way of doing it. But there is a lot of teams out there who are making projects for things like, for modifications for games that you can jump in on and start cutting your teeth on now. It may not be for any pay. Try not to work for free. It's one of those like levers that you can kind of turn on if like, oh, okay, I can do this for free because I value the exposure I'm going to get, or I value the information I'm going to get, or I'm a little green on this. You got to be careful not to get exploited. But sometimes those first few projects, treat them as your learning, your education, your experience, anything that you invest in yourself, even if someone's not paying for it, anything you invest in yourself is always going to pay dividends. So if you have to, for your own education, find these small projects to be part of and go for like zero to no money, that's something you should consider. Once you start knowing your value, then you realize, no, I can't work for free anymore. I can't do small projects like this. I can help out a friend. Everyone's got friends who's working on projects, but you got to be careful with that. Having said that, it is, my first few projects were mods. My first few projects were, Unreal mods or Quake mods or just different little projects that people would be doing that you could find online in forums. And again, if you're a known person there, they say, oh, this person does sound okay. When your time comes up, you have that opportunity. So I would look at, game jams. I would look at mods. I would, like I said, my first project was actually a screensaver. I remember seeing it on the game dev forum. Someone just said, hey, I'm making a screensaver, like a virtual aquarium screensaver. And I want to put sound in it. Like, okay, there's no way I want a screensaver that plays sound. As a matter of fact, if I find a screensaver that plays sound, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disable that screensaver. But this person wanted aquarium sounds for it. And I really don't even remember like how or why he trusted me. I just remember getting an email saying, hey, are you interested? And I said, yes. and we had a good relationship after there. We worked on that. It was the best virtual fish screensaver for the longest time ever. You can find, it's funny because you can actually find videos of it online, like 10-hour of like screen of like, you know, fish aquarium, and it's like that this project I made like almost 20 years ago. But,
that's awesome.
those opportunities exist, and you can do it. You're going to be, if you said you're like, you know, halfway through your degree or whatever, it's possible. I started just, you know, trolling around forums, looking where people are doing work, looking where people are making games, and then just being known in the community and stepping up and raising a hand at the right time. It's not impossible. They should understand, hey, I'm just a student too, we're students, whatever. Honestly, you're at Full Sail, there's a lot of game dev happening right there. Not just the final projects, the ones that happen at the end. There are a lot of people working on games, working on their own things. They're all students. What better way to learn than with other people who are also learning? You know, you've got a great community about you just right there in that school, whether you're, you know, in person or online. There's a way to tap into that, and I would say, yeah, if you're there, it's not impossible to start earning money from it too. It may not be a whole lot at first, but while you're a student, you know, don't focus quite so much on like the goal of like earning it. Keep focus on investing in yourself, in your education, whether it's formal or on the job trial by fire stuff. It's all useful. It'll all pay dividends if you're investing into yourself.
Cool. I got another question, Tony. As a music production student who wants to get into the game industry for music and sound design, should I be looking into getting a game development degree as well?
I don't think so. Certainly, I have to think about what game development degree would mean now versus what it meant back then. Back then, you're coding games. You're building games from scratch, whether you're using Unity or otherwise. You're making your own game. And while I do recommend learning how to do that, I've started on my own like game projects too here and there using like, you know, Unity and other kind of game maker projects and stuff, because it teaches you a lot about game development. I wouldn't necessarily do like game development unless you were like it was in you that you wanted to make your own games. If you're just trying to learn, there's a lot more direct ways for you to learn about how games are made. And honestly, like the first few like game projects that you work on, you learn tons. You learn a lot of stuff that mostly doesn't work, but then eventually you figure it out. And if you have a good team that's going to want to see you succeed as well, they're going to teach you along the way. They're going to show you what it is you need to do. That's not true with every place. There's a lot of places they want you coming in knowing everything. You will get to that point where you know enough to jump into the situation and know enough to just like keep moving with everyone. When you're starting out, you're looking for those ones that are going to kind of move with you. I don't know if that answers the question.
I think so. That's a good answer, Tony. So I have a question. So just to contrast, you know, in-house versus freelance a little bit more. So just as soon as we're, you know, as a freelancer, you know, you're providing all of your own equipment. You're a contractor. You like a plumber showing up for a job who's going to bring their own tool set. You've got to be able to maintain your own computer, your own software, all of that stuff. You know, do you find any friction or difficulty in interfacing with, you know, the various projects that you take on? Like, you mentioned some of the tech as far as Unreal Engine and Unity Engine as being the sort of big engines that most game developers are using. Like, do you have any like? I guess my question is like, in terms of like maintaining your own system and when you're getting jobs from clients, like how do you interface with their tech? Like, is it all just you're handing over assets? Are you doing a lot of integration on your end with like audio middleware? Like on the tech side of things, like how do you find it working from project to project and have all the different technical requirements for? Because it's not like working on a video necessarily of like, okay, they're gonna send me a video, I'm just going to add sound to this. Like there's all that the tech side of it, as opposed to just the creating the audio content. Like how are you, as a maybe a remote freelancer, do you find there's a lot of difficulty in connecting to their systems remotely?
Right. As a remote freelancer, I have found, one, I personally like it more so to be able to be the one who does all the implementation and integration as well. I've had some projects where I just made some sounds, threw it into an FTP folder, or a Google Drive or whatever, and then someone took it and then put it in the game, and then I would hear about it later. Those are cool. Those are fine. I personally love the implementation and integration side of it. I think I like that a little bit more so than actually designing the sounds themselves. I think for me personally, it's like writing music is kind of like above that, but that's my own thing. In terms of like the game audio developer and me, sound design was like kind of like right below that. But then once I learned about implementation and integration, that's what I really, really, really liked. And so when I have to, when I'm on a project, sometimes they are just asking for those sounds. Because I like integration, because I like that, I ask about, well, what are you doing to implement it? Are you writing your own engine? Are you using FMOD? Are you using Wise? What is it, is this something that I could also be of assistance with? Because I know FMOD and Wise, and I know how to script sounds in Unity, and I know how to do blueprints in Unreal. And I found that they mostly really appreciate that. Like, even if they ultimately aren't going to use that, the fact that you know that, the fact that you can interface with maybe their embedded audio person and deal with them directly, they like that. They like that a lot. So again, these little pluses are going to get you hired again. That was really easy, because if you're just a turnkey person, or what's the word? Someone who's just like making the sounds and putting them somewhere, that's a skill and it's legitimate and there's value to it. And when you're a freelancer, you're looking to solve as many problems for them as possible. Not because you want to, you're not looking for extra work to put on yourself, but you are looking to impress, and you are looking for the next job and the next job. Because that's, not to digress, but that's one of the bigger differences is like the in-house can provide a lot of stability, right? I was with Nspace for 8 years, and that was really, really nice. That was stable, had insurance and all that kind of good stuff. And then freelance really only depends on how well I treated the people during the time I was with them. Are they going to hire me again and again and again? And so, for instance, with Enway, the company that I'm currently contracting with the longest, working on Power Rangers titles, I've been with them for almost 10 years now, but just as a contractor, right? So I've actually been contracting with them longer than I was in-house. And I created that stability by just trying to be as good of a developer as I can to them, to respect their time, to respect their work, to come with more solutions than problems. I don't know if I steered too much off of the question there, but
I think that helps.
Yeah. That says something right there. You're always trying to get the next project. It's not for sure. Their funding can go off, and you don't know for sure if you're going to have a project or a contract next month. But you know that you've laid all the tracks, that you've created the scaffolding to jump into the next project. So when it comes around, you're the one they call. There's no question. Oh, of course, we're going to call Tony. We do that. We've been with him for 8 years. We've been with him for 9 years, 10 years now. It'll be almost 10 years soon. So
I'm curious, with games that you've worked on, trying to scope it out and trying to get paid at regular intervals, like coming at it from more of a film side, where on the film side, the film is done, you're getting handed the project, and the post budget is what it is, and you've got a set timeline for doing audio, and then you're done. On the game side, it's kind of a living animal that's, maybe still in flux, like that the end goal of getting to that shipped project, can vary, because it's not even, like you said, it's not always done. The visual side, the coding of it, like you might come in at it at different stages of development. Like how do you scope and budget for your time on a freelance project month to month, and trying to get paid in like at regular intervals? Like how do you deal with that with a client?
Well, yeah, you're right. Game development is kind of a moving target. I mean, some of the bigger and better projects will have a lot of things kind of fixed. We are shipping by this date. We are running QA from this. We have code lock at this time, and these are the things everyone's going to live and die by. And some companies can really, really stick to those. But even the best companies, there's always like a little bit of flex. Like, hey, this didn't happen, so we're going to push this for 2 more weeks, or this didn't. So you kind of have to move things around. The bigger, the more complex projects that there are, that they just simply involve a lot of other people. And you gotta have to kind of roll with the punches. And there were times where like, oh, hey, we need you on for another month, but we need you to stop working for 2 weeks before we're ready again. And within that time between when I first started and where I picked up again, I guess they decided not to pay me. They ultimately did, but I had to wait during that little gap where, had I known about that, I could have said, hey, I get paid at this date no matter what happens. But there was a gap. And so the only way that I was able to kind of cover that gap was I had other work kind of going. I had other contracts that I can kind of move around. And I had a little bit of a buffer. It's when you don't have a buffer, it's when you're basically like kind of paycheck to paycheck, where that really kind of gets exacerbated. But like, I need that pay now because I worked for it, or I only have ability to work this 2 weeks and you need me to stretch beyond that. That's where the flex comes in. That's where the fact that you're not stuck to like an 8-hour day or just working Monday through Friday kind of comes in. You have to learn how to flex. You have to learn how to like, okay, I can't burn myself out. I can't do that. But maybe for a week or so, I can kind of work 10-hour days, 12-hour days. Maybe I got to pick up some time on the weekend and stuff. And that is definitely the beauty of freelance versus in-house, is that a lot of times you're just kind of needed to be online at certain times. Some places have core hours, so I got to be there for a certain amount of time in the middle. Or sometimes I just got to show up to stand-ups or just like a one-on-one, or if you're visible enough online on the forums, they're not going to constantly be pulling you into meetings, but sometimes you want to be in those meetings. Sometimes you want to be there. So it's being present enough that they know what you're doing, so that when you're not there, when you're not doing stuff, they're not necessarily like worrying about you, I guess. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if you see freelance as being more of a thing now with so many studio closures and things. Like, do you see the industry moving more heavily into the freelance world?
Well, I think it might move a little bit more towards like what you were suggesting with the film world, where it is more project based, and so that's essentially freelance, right? So we're there for that project, and then the project's done, and that's it. And the difference might be because the industry is definitely shifting from. We used to have a thing where we basically make a game and then it's out and it's done. And then eventually we're able to patch it. And then eventually we're able to kind of like add a shop to it and kind of add some longevity to the game. And then we decided, well, what about games as a service, where the game is just always online? Or we're constantly doing, constantly selling things on a regular cadence. For instance, Legacy Wars, we release about a character or two every month, And so that's been the update for the game. We've been doing it now for almost, 8 or 9 years for this project. It changes like how you work, I suppose. It changes how you approach these things. Sorry.
That's okay. I think we got to wrap things up anyway, Tony, so that's okay. That's good timing. So I think we're going to wrap things up anyway. But thanks so much, Tony, for all of your insights. Lots of great information for sure. So really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to wrap things up for us today in today's Audio Production Town Hall. So thanks again to Tony Porter for all of his insights. Be sure to check us out each and every month. We'll be here talking about all sorts of different audio-related topics each and every month. If you can't make one live, you can always check out our YouTube channel and watch the archives there. So we'd like to thank the live event production students in this month's Audiovisual Technologies class and their course director, John Coast, for handling all the behind-the-scenes production of the Audio Production Town Hall. Great job, team. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks. Are we out now? Yeah.